Hey guys, Ash here again. So we're up to basically up to programming the Racepak stuff. I had a small problem with I went to power it up yesterday because I made a little bit of a mistake when I wired in the Cartec solid state isolator. I forgot to bell out the two cables that I'd run, and I had a 50-50 chance of getting it right. Turns out I got it right, but I was checking that yesterday, and when I finally got it to go, I realised that. So this is the internal push button for the isolator, which sits in the middle of the dash, which both of the navigator and driver can get to while strapped in. And then there's another one that will go on the outside of the body. And as you can see it just runs in with a nice light cable. You don't have to run a big heavy cable. So to turn it on, it's just a matter of pushing that, and we push that, and that means that power's on. Now, I did this yesterday. Light come on like this, solid light, meaning that everything's good. And I came around here and I had a look at the PDM, and up here can see that we have no power light and no status light. You'll just take my word for it, but if you test here at the post, that is actually live. So we were live, but we had no power and no status. And so I was racking my brains on what the problem could be, and I remembered that I basically got almost all the way through wiring this car, and I realised that I had forgotten to send a control cable to the front to switch on the fan for the oil cooler. Now, you're more than likely not going to be able to read this, but basically this orange line here on the this is the wiring schedule for the Smartwire, and the Smartwire has a shutdown cable, and when you ground out the shutdown cable, it will kill all the output channels, and basically it will kill the whole Smartwire. Even though you've put power into it, it will just show it as a dead unit. Now, what I'd done is, when I realised I hadn't run that cable, I thought that this shutdown wire was just like all the other wires and would have been a programmable channel. So I had actually run this shutdown wire up. I wasn't going to use it, but I did have it up here in the front just in case I decided I wanted to use it. And so when I realised I hadn't actually run a cable to switch the fan for the oil cooler, I decided I'd put in a oh, this is going to be hard to do. Just down here I put in this relay, and so it switched the relay, and then the relay switches the fan on. So obviously I've got that run up, and it's on one side of the coil, which for those that you know, it's probably on either 85 or 86. That's the coil. And obviously the other side of the coil goes to ground. And because the other side of the coil goes to the ground, and you know, coil's just a bit of resistance in the line. Basically you're grounding out that cable, and like I said, in my head originally I thought that was just like any other channel, and I'd be able to log in and repurpose that channel by programming it and calling it something else. But as it turns out, trick for the players, it's not. It's a dedicated shutdown channel. You can't reprogram it, and because I had it on there like so, like at the moment this is the exact state that we were in. We had light on, right, and nothing is on. Now if I pull, I did this yesterday, I'm not going to do it now because I know what's going to happen. If I was to pull the shutdown cable that I've got running up to that coil off the relay, which would essentially disconnect it and make it no longer shorted to ground. If I do that, the car actually starts cranking over, and I don't want to do that because we're not ready for that. We're not ready for that for a few reasons. One is all the rocker gears just sitting in the covers there. They're actually not on. They haven't been on for the whole period of this car's been getting built, because we didn't want to leave all the springs under tension, so all the rocker gears actually off. So we don't want to be cranking the engine over. Luckily I had thought about what could possibly happen, and I wasn't too sure of what status or state that all the channels on the PDM would be in when we power them up. So I was ready to kill it. So it probably barely cranked over half a turn. So, but I'm just going to turn that off. So today, what I have to do before I can get into programming, because unfortunately I didn't fully read the instructions well enough. I did read them, but I didn't read them enough, because when it got to the programming bit and all that, I thought, I won't bother about reading this because I'm not doing this now, I'm wiring the car. And but one of the things that, and granted, you know, Racepak have highlighted this many times in big bold red writing, and it basically says that you should initially just wire up the power and the grounds to the PDM, power the PDM up, and program it before you do anything else. So basically you should have a plan, and I did have a plan, and I could have done this, but I didn't do it because I didn't read the instructions well enough. So you should have a plan so you already know what every output, what every input channel is actually going to do before you start, because what they're saying is they want you to let me put this down, because I'll tell you what, that camera is a bit heavy. So they want you to pre-program it before you actually get cracking. So with that being said, I didn't do that. So today, what I've got to do, what my plan is, well, to start off with, the cable that runs from header plug B all the way up to that relay, which is the shutdown cable, this is the plan, and I'm pretty sure I can do it. So there isn't a lot of room in there, but I'm going to pull out the header plug B, and I'm going to try and de-pin the shutdown cable out of the plug. And I know that I've got a spare channel on that plug, a spare output channel. So I'm going to de-pin it and put it into that spare channel. And then when I do go to program it, I'll be able to assign that spare channel as the oil cooler fan, right? So we'll be good. We'll be good there. So that's the first thing that I've got to do. And then the second thing I'm going to do, well, I'm going to try and do, is I'm going to dodge something up. I've got spare header pins. So they use the Super Seal header plugs. So I've got some header pins here, female header pins, and what I'm going to try and do is, because I think there's only 3 pins, I'm going to make up a ground. So I'm going to hook these 3 pins together and then ground it. So I'm going to disconnect the 2 header plugs, and I'm going to try and get in there and slip one of these pins over the male pin to ground the 3 pins that I need to ground. And that way the unit should power up as it should, but obviously none of the actual wiring is connected. So regardless of the status of all the input and output channels, regardless of all that going on, nothing's going to try and run, nothing's going to try and tell something else to do something else, and we'll just be powering it up. And that's basically what Racepak wanted you to do from the get-go, if you read the instructions properly, like I didn't. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to try and do. So we'll get cracking into that. Hopefully it works. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to get in there, because otherwise my other option is I've got to go around and disconnect every little plug, starting with the starter motor. I really don't want to get under there, because that's not in the nicest spot to be working. Alright, let's see if we can. There's not a lot of room in here. Alrighty, so we need to get to pin 20, which like always is in the worst possible spot to get to. Oh, it's tight. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, this camera is giving me the shits, so I'm gonna move it out of the way and I'll come back to you. But basically I'm going to unclip the locking mechanism on this, find the correct pin, pull the cable out, shove it in the right hole, and we should be good to go. Alright, I'll be back. Alright, well that was a mission and a half. I suppose the right thing to do is don't stuff up the first time. Anyway, so I'll swap those. I'll swap the shutdown cable around now. Now the next thing I'm going to do is make up. There's three grounding pins, one on header plug B and two on header plug A. They're all on pins 19. So on header plug A you've got pin 19 and 20, and on header plug B we've got pin 19. So all we're going to do is we're going to make up a little jumper cable using these 3 bits of grounding wire, okay, and we've already stripped some of it. Because this is temporary, it doesn't need to be amazing. For that reason, I'm not going to bother with crimping or anything like that. I'm just going to twist it up. But throw just a little bit of heat shrink on there just to hold it together. Nice little quick join, very temporary. If we were doing something permanent, we would be using crimps and glue-filled heat shrink, but not in this case. So what we're going to do here, what I plan on with these 3 cables here, I'm going to terminate onto the extra pins that I've got. Just strip these back. I'll tell you what, if you don't have a pair of these strippers, you should get some, because they're bloody fantastic. Cool. Make sure you can see my hands. What do we do with the pins? No? Yeah. Get 3 of these. Alright. There's our crimper. Open barrel crimper. If you you'll need one of these if you're going to be terminating header plugs or open barrel splice crimps, any of that kind of stuff. This is also an open barrel crimper. I did a bit of a video showing all the different crimpers. If you haven't seen it already, check it out. That's basically what you're looking for. If you can, if that will. Anyway, on there nice and good. Probably too good for what we're going to be doing. But I don't want it to fall off and short anything out. Actually, thinking of that, I might even put a bit of heat shrink over these so they're insulated so they don't accidentally short out on one of the pins, since what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it in obviously without an actual header plug. We're just going to try and shove the pin over the male pin. I suppose if you were doing this all the time, you'd probably just have a not that I'd have room to do this, but you could have a spare super seal plug set up for for programming. Just quickly plug it in, away you go. So the other thing I've been doing, I've just been checking up on the programming side of things. Now, because of the system that I've got with I've got the logger dash and also the Smartwire, all of those can actually be run standalone, but in my case they won't be run standalone. Everything's going to feed back to the logger dash, and that's going to do part of the logging. The Emtron ECU actually has a really good logger as well, and we'll be doing logging on the Emtron, and once I set it all up, and I'll see what we can see. But if I can, I'm not sure what we're going to be able to see back to the Emtron, but if the Emtron can see some of the channels that the Smartwire can see, then I may even do all the logging at the Emtron, but we'll just wait and see. The Smartwire, well, not the Smartwire, the Racepak logger dash has some really good features in it though. One, we've got the GPS, so we can actually map the track, the racetrack we're at. So when we go out and do the reconnaissance, we can map the racetrack, and then we can enter in start, finish lines and gates for sections and whatnot. So as we're driving, we can see our sectional times and lap times and see how they compare to the laps before us. So obviously you can't do that with the KV8, well, not to my knowledge anyway. You probably can, but but you just got to program it, and I don't know whether I'm up to that exactly, but we'll see how we go. Alright, so we've got this like that, and as the afterthought goes, I'm actually going to put some heat shrink over these. Or am I? That is a very good question. I don't know. I'm just thinking about it. I don't know. I wonder how much room I've actually got, whether I've even got enough room for heat shrink. So I'm just going to have a look. I think there'll be room. We'll do one and we'll see how we go. So this glue-filled heat shrink will shrink down to 4 times its size. So that's kind of what I'm aiming for right there. I think that will be okay, so I'm gonna do the others. Good old rain. Been really crappy weather lately. Go from COVID to shit weather. You can finally go outside and you can't even go anywhere. Okay, and then on this end, just going to fit a put a lug onto it. Got a grounding stud in there, so put that in there like so. Find the right crimper. Really easy. Blue to blue, blue, blue. Crimp. And we're done. So this is my little setup we've got here. We've got our three pins, female pins, our earthing lug. We're going to try and push these up into the right terminals. Try being the operative word. Okay, that was very difficult. But
you come into my shop?
Sure, we'll have a celebratory shop. Now, if I come up through here, I can show you what I did. So if we hold that there, and then if I put some light up in there, you can kind of see I've just put those terminals onto the pins. Alright. Oh my god. And it was not easy. So, having known all this, read the instructions. Because it's a pain in the ass to do it afterwards. So now, oh. So now, what we need to do is put on our earth. Here's a nut I found earlier. So this is our little jumper. I'm going to put this onto, got a grounding stud here. Sorry, I call it earth. For those that don't know, I'm actually a Sparky. Which is actually very different to automotive electricity, so, or electrics. Similar, but very different. So we like to call everything earths and neutrals. And here we like to call everything grounds. Oh, let me find my 10mm. The elusive 10mm spanner. Cool. Okay, so to quickly recap, all we've done is we've pulled the header plugs off. We have pulled the header plugs off and we've applied the grounds to pins 19 on header plug B and 19 and 20 on header plug A. Okay. We pulled out the shutdown cable out of header plug B, pin 20, and I moved that one to pin 15, I think it was my spare. Is that right? Yeah, pin 15. So now, hopefully, this time, when we hit our big button here, power's going to go on, nothing's going to smoke, and should be happy days. Let's try it. Oh yeah, you see that? We got a solid green and a solid red. Now, I've got everything disconnected from yesterday because I was having problems. So what I might do is I'm just gonna, because when I was having problems not getting, this was dead and I was getting power here, I thought maybe there might have been a conflict with the Vnet and the remote switch being hooked in. So I pulled it all off. So what I'll do quickly is we'll just turn the power off and we will hook all this back in. So the Vnet cable goes. What are we going to do first? Let's do the switch first. So there we go. So that's the switch cable. And we've got our Vnet, which goes in there. Now, so yeah, I don't know if I touched on it before, but basically the Smartwire can be run as a standalone unit, and if that was the case and you weren't running any Vnet, well, you can run some Vnet, you can run Vnet sensors, but as long as you're not running a Vnet logger, you actually do all your programming up here through the USB port, okay? And you log in and you do your modifications on the Smartwire config file. But because we're running a logger dash, or maybe you're running a V300 logger, or is it the V500, one of those big expensive loggers, maybe you're running a drag car. If you're running a logger, you need to do your programming through the logger, which means that you'll actually have a logger config file, and off the back of that will be the programming for this. And so instead of plugging in and programming here, you'll actually plug into your logger and you'll do a scan of the Vnet system, and it'll identify that you've got, say, a Smartwire on here, or whatever other Vnet sensors you've got going on, and it will recognize all them and it will add them to your logger config file, and you do your programming from there. So that's where we're heading with this. So this is the Vnet cable, which plugs into here. It should plug into here. If I line it up right. Okay. I hope I've got that terminating resistor in the right spot. I think I have. So that's going to run all the way back. Now that that's all plugged in, that runs back over to there, to the dash. And this time when we power up, oh, look at that. We got lights up the top and we got lights on the dash. Seen it here first, folks. Let's go and have a look over that side. It's pretty exciting, hey? We can learn together. I'll be the guinea pig. So what do we got here? We got our dash. Geez, it's a lot clearer than I thought it would be. That's really good. And then up here we've got the push the joystick the right way. This is our switch panel. So obviously at the moment all those lights are on, so down must be off. This is flashing. Not sure why that's flashing. Hope it's not the same as intermittently sending a signal, because if that's the case, hopefully that's just a programming thing. I'm sure we'll suss it out. So yeah, what we need to do now, or what I need to do, and I'm going to probably stop this video here, but from this point on, because I've got a logger dash, we'll do the whole programming for the whole system through the dash. So there's a special serial cable that plugs into the back here. So I'll have to get the laptop out, plug into the back, and yeah, we'll attempt to do some programming, see if we can't work it out. I'm sure we can work it out. Can't be too hard. Can't be too hard. Luckily, I do have a little experience with with some program logic. But okay. As always, guys, thanks for watching. It's been these videos now are pretty much up to date as I make them. All the archived footage is basically gone. So if there's something you see or something you want to a bit more information on, let me know in the comments, and we'll have a bit of a chat about it next time. Alright guys, I'll catch you later.